Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to V with Mike G, the show of life, the show of San Antonio, the show of New Mexico, festivals, Ron Cooper, the early days, California, mustaches on women. It is an amazingly robust conversation with the CEO of Tequila Aficionado Media, Mike Morales. He's currently in San Antonio, but the dude has been everywhere. And if you want to get deeply entrenched into the history, the social history of tequila, the main players, understanding how this narrative unfolded before our eyes, the early days of Don Julio, the early days of Jose Cuervo, this is exactly the conversation that will ramp you up and get you familiar with the current state of this industry. We talk about Sean Penn, El Chapo, Chinaco importing, lots of different things, and I really appreciate this chat with Mike. It is a very sage-like conversation. So I hope you guys enjoy this chat with Mike Morales.
They came to the United States legally, because really Nicaragua at that point had been a dictatorship with the Somoza family. And really you had to plan ahead to get a visa to get out of the country because you had to, not everybody could get one. And even when you called back home, they were worried about the phones being tapped. You could hear clicking going on, whether it was a bad connection, bad AT&T.
You don't know,
We don't know. So there was a lot of... my father was a product of the Depression. He grew up during the Depression, born during that time. And so, you're born during the Depression, and you live in a third world country that's a dictatorship. So my father was very lucky because his father was a government official. Mm-hmm. So they tend to have a roof over their head and some, a decent pension and a job. Yeah. And so my father was a dental technician. That means he made false teeth. He made
no kidding.
Yeah, he made removable partials.
What's the right word?
Dental prosthesis.
Prosthesis, yeah.
In those days, they didn't have crown and bridge, so it was all removable partials and dentures.
Wow.
And he learned from a master in Nicaragua. He apprenticed just like any other trade, and they wanted a better life for their son. So my dad came to the United States. My mother had been in the States already.
Oh, but they met in Nicaragua. But
they met in L.A.
Oh, they met in L.A.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
The story goes. Mom tells the story that they lived blocks away from each other, but they never really met.
Really,
they never met each other in Managua. They lived in the capital city. So, and when they met through a mutual friend. My mom was living with her uncle and their family, and my father was living with his aunt, actually. And they were introduced from a mutual friend, started dating, and I was born a year later after they were married.
Isn't that crazy, though, that you might cross the path of your future partner many times, but you never know it? You know what I mean? Isn't that crazy?
You never know.
It happens so often. Too.
Yeah, well, if these two were meant for each other, they were meant, like you say, what are the odds?
Yeah.
What are the odds that they wouldn't have met in Nicaragua?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, and then I had to go to L.A. to meet.
Yeah, it's really funny because when they speak, when I've heard them speak when my dad was still alive and I was growing up, I'd hear them tell stories about when they were younger, and they knew some of the same people, they knew some of the same neighborhoods, but they were never.
Never a direct hit.
Yeah, it was never. It was like two magnets. It just you can get them really close and just go the other direction.
Just a little bit. It's brilliant though how close. It's almost like how close it came to never happening. You know what I mean? I always think about those kinds of things. It's like if you didn't say this one thing to this one person on this one date at exactly the right time, the rest of your life would have a completely different trajectory.
It's that way. It's happened that way for me almost throughout my life, especially getting into the tequila situation. Like I said, I grew up in Southern California.
Where were you? How was high school in LA?
That mom and dad, they sacrificed and sent my sister and myself to a Catholic grammar school.
Oh, interesting.
So I went to St. John the Baptist in Baldwin Park, California, east of Los Angeles.
That's man.
Yeah.
Was that a fun experience? I went to public school, so I don't really know.
You know, not the way they broke it to me. No, that wasn't fun at all. It wasn't until I got to fourth grade and was. I had gone to. I'm not sure for those of you who are Catholic or those of you who are Catholic impaired. We were sent to catechism, on weekends. We were going to public schools. And in the fourth grade, mom and dad decided in their inimitable wisdom that they were going to send me to Catholic school.
Wow.
Because they went to
makes some sense.
They went to some of the best private schools. I mean, that was a sign of prosperity for their for where they came from.
Sure.
And generally speaking, the Catholic schools had better education than public schools. That was
more focused, right? Because you get some more there's smaller classes too, isn't there?
Yeah, the class. Well, I don't know about I guess it depends.
Well, Catholics they are busy.
It depends on the diocese. Also, it depends on how many people are living in your neighborhood.
Gotcha,
the larger the population, the more you have people in class. But my first experience with a nun. And it was very scary because that's when I realized in the fourth grade that women could grow mustaches.
Oh!
After high school, graduated, went to college at Cal Poly Pomona because I didn't want to go. I wanted to go Cal State LA, but they, for some reason, I guess they were too busy, taking people from LA.
Yeah.
So I went to Pomona, went 5 years, and I got a minor in English. Mm-hmm. Loved English. I could have been the next Nicholas Sparks. All right,
is that good or bad?
That's bad now because he must die.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Nicholas Sparks must die.
He's a sap. There's
overly
sappy.
But he's making millions.
Sure.
And if you've ever seen any of his movies,
I have, yeah.
Okay, well that there's never a happy ending.
No,
somebody dies of leukemia. Somebody dies, in a ship. Kevin Costner never comes back.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Wait, that's Nicholas Sparks too?
Yeah,
The Guardian is?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's a horrible movie. I watched that the other day. It was actually okay until it got horrible.
But it's a formula. Yeah. Nobody was writing formulaic stuff, and then Stephen King just broke through with his formulas, and he was selling his books and making movies out of it, and then everybody got into that kind of writing. But at that point, I had already left college and started working at a health club.
Yeah, what were you doing at the health club?
I was a health instructor. Heather Locklear was the spokeswoman for Holiday Spa.
Yeah.
And that was at the time she was doing Dynasty and TJ Hooker. She was hot property. So,
right.
So, matter of fact, I'm binge watching Dynasty now with Lisa.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on Amazon.
Amazon. Wow, man, I haven't seen Dynasty.
I know. Well,
I was a little kid when it was on.
We had binged watched Dallas.
Yeah.
And even the terrible 9th season, which was the one
where the whole dream one.
The whole dream season that sucked.
Sorry to spoil it. It was 20 years later. But that season was a dream.
Bobby, that whole season is just classic.
Yeah.
But so once we went through that, and Lisa's a writer. Lisa Peach is our COO now, Tequila Aficionado, but she's also my girlfriend and my significant other, and we live together. And she's a writer. She writes stuff like The Expendables. She's a woman. She spent time in the Air Force, and the two of us now we dissect some of this old stuff that we watch. The scripts and stuff, because eventually we plan on writing a tequila-based novel, like a telenovela, because the stories in the tequila industry, you can't make this stuff up, man.
It's probably tense, dramatic, violent at times.
Everything. Well, you look what's going on right now with Sean Penn and El Chapo.
Oh, Jesus. I just read about that. I mean, I knew about the interview, but I didn't realize there was fallout. Is that because he smeared El Chapo from a PR perspective?
No. What's happening is that the actress who supposedly facilitated the meeting for Sean Penn to meet El Chapo is a famous Mexican actress who does lots of telenovelas.
Right.
She's done telenovelas based on the narco system.
Okay.
And has this, and apparently had some communication with El Chapo because he was a big fan.
Okay.
Kate Del Castillo recently did has done a TV show for Eva Longoria. She guest starred there, and it's called Telenovela.
Oh, no kidding.
And it's a comedy, and it's wonderfully done, very well done. So Kate is bilingual, and she just did an episode like last week, a week and a half ago. It just aired.
Okay.
But Kate, when she facilitated this meeting with El Chapo for Sean Penn, I was following her because my job is to locate new brands of tequila. That's what I do.
Right.
And her Instagram, her tequila, her brand of tequila was running a campaign, and they were going to launch the same time as the article was released by Rolling Stone.
Oh no! Okay, I see.
So it's called Tequila Honor del Castillo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I did some digging, and went to the website. I found out that the NOM, the tequila distillery that she's using, is the same one that David Suro uses for Siembra Azul, NOM 1414,
okay.
the Vivanco family and Asociados. That's scary, and I will tell you why.
Why is that scary?
The rumor is, and I knew that this was going to happen because it happened the first year that I lived in Texas. The Justice Department of Justice, enacted the Kingpin Act, or enforced it, on several families, several businesses that did business in the United States that were known to be companies that were owned by narcos.
Oh,
because these companies are where the narcos launder their money.
I see.
Okay. So now there are articles coming out. Did Kate Del Castillo use El Chapo's money to launch her brand? Oh. Okay. You know as well as I do that right now the Jalisco state, go for it. The state of Jalisco is where the majority of tequila is made, and there's a lot of problems going on in Guadalajara. Every so often, there are road blockades that the narcos burn up trucks and they stop traffic, and and here off and on there are problems in the highlands. Not very often. They tend to leave the industry and the people alone, but one particular brand coming out of one particular distillery, El Viejo Luis, was on that list that the Justice Department posted. So
when did they post this? Just this week?
They put out a press release. It's public.
The Justice Department did?
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So anyway, you follow Kate Del Castillo in her website. She was launching, if you take and I'm, for those conspiracy theorists out there are going to love this. When she was launching her brand, there were only specific countries she was going to launch it in. The first wave of the tequila launch was going to be in Latin America. Mexico, Nicaragua, Honduras, Peru, parts of South America. And if you look at those countries, that's the cocaine trail. That's the narco trail, man. It doesn't take anyone
scientist to
figure that out. It doesn't take a scientist. How come you skip Costa Rica? Why? Because Costa Rica doesn't have an army. You know why? Because the United States supports the country of Costa Rica, and that's where the DEA and all the FBI and all the drug enforcement agencies watch the
region.
Watch the region. They watch how it travels.
Wow.
Through that country. I know that my first trip to Mexico, when I walked among the blue agave and saw rows and rows of that blue, that's so blue against the red soil of Arandas in Los Altos, and it hurts your eyes. It almost burns your retina. You got to look at it through sunglasses.
Yeah.
And it's real. Those pictures are untouched. And when you go there and you get to touch the plant and smell it and taste it and go through the whole process, I tell people, and it's true, you come back a changed person.
It changed your life, yeah. Well, how can you just take a trip? For me, it changed my whole perspective
there you
on
go.
mezcal. Yeah, easily. Yeah. And I had already been familiar with many of those steps, but seeing it, smelling it, being hot, being sweaty, eating, like all that,
exactly.
That's what gives it life, really.
Well, for me, I had coffee all my life. I love bananas. So what do? We go to a banana plantation, go to a coffee plantation. Man. The hard work, the labor intensive that it is to pick coffee or to pick bananas, is not done by Costa Ricans.
Who's it done by?
It's done by their migrant workers, which are usually Nicaraguans.
Oh, no kidding.
Every country has its migrant worker.
Sure.
And I found it very sad. You know, our bus driver, our tour guide was a professional tour guide. You know, you can get the country of Costa Rica knows that tourism is it's the number one industry for their economy.
Yeah.
They know that. And so you can go to school to be a certified tourist, you know, a certified tour guide, and work for very distinguished companies. So our tour guide was excellent, and the bus driver was amazing. Our tour, you know, this was a luxury bus. And I of course I speak the language, so we were watching them haul these. They haul bunches of bananas on rails from the groves. I don't even know where these groves are, but when they come around, they're being pulled by one guy.
Just a big banana
big bunches of bananas are tied up.
Oh, okay.
And they're run on rails. And
like a trolley system almost?
Like a trolley system.
No kidding.
And they're tied to one guy. It's like watching the strongman competitions on ESPN where they're pulling a truck. Same idea.
Wow.
Okay. And these guys are out there in the middle of the freaking jungle, right? Working for Del Monte.
Mm-hmm.
And Del Monte has its own airstrip too. So it's really interesting to watch how they bring the bunches in. They cut them up. From the moment they're cut up fresh, they go from table to table to table. Mm-hmm. The ones that don't meet muster are thrown into a big truck, and they're made into baby food. Some of them used for banana paper, and then the bunches that are made that are perfect are wrapped, weighed, stamped, and put on a plane and flown to wherever they're supposed to. Probably flown to Miami for all I know.
Wow.
And that's how
changes the whole perspective.
Changes the whole perspective. So I'm talking to the bus driver, and I said to him, I said, wow. I says, how many? I said, everybody who works here, they're all from Costa Rica. And he says, oh no. He says the laborers are Nicaraguan. And I looked at him and I said, how can you tell? Oh, well, because you can always tell the Nicaraguans because they have their mouth. They're all wrapped in gold. What does he mean by that? Their dental work is gold. So my aunt has done that. It was a process. It was a given process because in Nicaragua, it's known that Central American gold is one of the more sought after golds.
Yeah.
And I know this from my father who used to work with precious metals.
Right.
Central American gold is very, very sturdy and very pliable. Mm-hmm. And so because it's there and because it was a bunch of it, they use it for dental work.
Wow.
Ellos tienen los dientes forrados en oro. So they have their teeth, you know, they're done in gold.
Yeah, wow.
I said, wow. And that wasn't, you know, he said it very matter-of-factly, but it was rather elitist.
Was it?
It hurt.
Yeah.
Because these are my people. This is where I come from.
Yeah.
And this is their migrant worker. You know, they're looked upon as labor. You know, oh no, there's no Costa Ricans that would do hard labor like this.
Wow.
Oh no.
I mean, it's an amazing parallel, striking parallel to the States.
Thank you.
You know, that's exactly it. Like we won't turn this political because it's so easily turned into a political thing.
I know.
About these people, no new immigrants, blah blah. Bottom line is, we're elitist, most of us, and we don't want to do the work. We want someone else to do the work.
Exactly. Because I was working, I think I worked 2 part-times, maybe 3 part-time jobs.
Yeah.
Just to make ends meet, right?
Sure.
But I always made time for radio because I loved it. That was like my thing.
Yeah.
You know? And everybody that tried out for that morning position, he didn't like. The station manager, the representative for Simmons Radio hated it. And then I guess I was on the air during that time at the afternoon drive,
right,
when he was listening to all these other audition tapes. And he said, well, what about this guy? Well, he doesn't want it. So I was chosen by the station manager, general manager, vice president of Simmons Radio to try out. And I was hired as the morning disc jockey.
Jeez, that's big exposure.
Well, yeah, right? I loved it, you know. And then
it makes me wonder though why you wouldn't throw your hat.
You know, because I'll tell you why. I had so many other part-time jobs that it would ruin my flow. You know what I mean? Because I liked where it fit into my schedule.
Right.
But if they promised me a full time,
then
I'd get rid of it. Yeah, no problem. So the reason they made it attractive because they had part of the package was to be a full timer.
Yeah.
And then I would probably learn production.
Sure.
I would do more voiceover because I thought I was talented enough to do voiceover in local commercials, and I did some after that.
Right.
But it turned out that they gave me the morning job, but they rescinded. They had to cut back again on the full-time position. So it always stayed as a part-time for me. Which was okay. I'd show up at 6 in the morning, 6:05. Did my 2.5, 3 hours on the air live, tape out my last hour, head for the gym, work out for a couple hours, and then go to my next job. In my career in radio was never, it was never a promising thing.
Yeah.
Eventually, Simmons sold a block of radio stations. They fired everybody. They bring in their own people, or they centralize the voice.
Right.
And it comes from Southern California. So I came from the 1800 Jose Cuervo school, and she came from the Patron school because it was, it was the girly thing to do. It's pretty, So one year, she had friends who she was working with at her travel agency, and I still had friends in radio, and we finally I somehow convinced her she was going to meet one of her friends from her work there, and I said, "Oh, great! So now we get to go." Right, so I was all jazzed. We get to go. It was a nice warm fall day.
Yeah,
and I run into a couple of friends from radio.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah, and they were at the event as well. In fact, they were probably doing a remote. A remote cell there. And so we hadn't seen each other for a couple of years, and we started talking. And then after the event, we all went to my friend's apartment complex where they had a pool because it was so hot that we had to just dip our heads in the pool. And as we were talking, there were three of us. One was a general manager of one of the oldest hotels in Albuquerque. It was historic. It was one of the first Hilton hotels, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Hilton grew up in southern New Mexico.
I didn't know that.
Baron Hilton. He grew up in San Antonio, New Mexico, which was part of my territory.
Yeah, okay.
When I worked in the food business. So anyway, the three of us are going, but we were all tequila drinkers, and the general manager of this place was heavy into mezcals, and we were all drinking the wrong shit.
Yeah,
right? He's drinking the mezcal with the wine, and he get it, in a plastic jug. Remember those? Okay, and it's only smooth because it's watered down a little bit, and that's how they sell it to you. And so we had a great time because we had a few glasses of wine at that point, and we all looked at each other and we said, gosh, I wish they would do something like this for tequila.
Yeah. And then, like a festival.
Yeah, right. And then we all looked at each other, like at the same time.
The light bulbs
went off,
yeah.
Right? And the general manager, my buddy in radio says, well, I'm still in radio and I can do events.
Yeah.
I said, well, I got some time on my hands. I can do the footwork. I can do the research. And the other guy says, well, I've got the venue.
Oh, perfect.
We need an event to bring people into our hotel. This was before anything like a tequila show had ever been done.
Right.
A year to the day, we were pitching the one of the vice presidents of that location of that hotel. We were pitching them our show.
Yeah.
We pitched 3 different owners / general managers before the third one said, we'll do it.
Gosh, they just kept kicking it back, or they just
but everybody liked the idea,
invest in it.
But these guys weren't getting paid by the owners, and so by the time they came around, they just left for another hotel, right? It turned out that my other partner, my radio buddy, his girlfriend at the time, who is now his wife, and what is now his present-day brother-in-law, worked for Southern Wine and Spirits.
Oh, no kidding.
So we had an in with Southern Wine. Southern Wine always had the largest portfolio of tequilas in the U.S.
Yeah.
They saw the beauty of this event because it had never been done before anywhere in the United States. Local food pairings.
Sure, that's all common. But
guys like Carlos Camarena would come across and go from restaurant to restaurant. And that, and they took a page from the Sousa family because that's what all the Sousas would do. They would come and meet their accounts. So that's how they got tequila into the U.S. is to meet their accounts and meet the restaurants. And Jose Cuervo, I even wrote an article that Jose Cuervo did a great job of romancing Mexican restaurant chains.
Okay.
They've done it for 50 years, and that's why they're so entrenched in a lot of big chains. So anyway, a year to the day, we had our first event, and we ran the event for 3 years.
And once a year?
In New Mexico, yeah, once a year at the same hotel. It got tougher and tougher to do that event.
Yeah.
Because the hotel, because people enjoyed themselves. Our third year, we had them lined up around the block of the hotel to get in.
That's incredible. What is it? Tickets? Is it a badge?
Well, yeah, we saw. I mean, everything was. The internet was just coming into its own.
Yeah.
We were still on. We were still dial up. I was doing a lot of the internet work, selling tickets online. We would shut down the website. I would send confirmations. It was
lots
of work. In the fourth year, when I was looking to I wanted. Here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to take this event, do 5 years in New Mexico, because my thing was I wanted to make it as big an event for tourism. I loved that state, and at the time they had what they call the International Balloon Fiesta, and I wanted my event to be similar, to be a big tourist attraction, and it got really, really close. And then our illustrious governor at the time, Governor Richardson, put the kibosh on that.
Which aspect of it?
Well, it was
something to do with the alcohol?
Yeah, it had to do with the alcohol. There is a law. It was the interpretation of the sampling law that ruined it. And what had happened was, here's how distribution works. At least it worked then. In New Mexico, there are venues that don't have enough staff to sample new. Let's say, for instance, this mezcal.
Yeah.
If this were back in New Mexico, and David Suro wanted to introduce Siembra mezcal to the state, then he would take it to. Let's say he'd take it to Southern Wine and Spirits. We know he's not with them, but then. So what'll happen is they want to introduce this to all the major accounts.
Right.
But there's not enough manpower. Southern Wine and Spirits doesn't have the manpower to do that.
Right.
David Suro would have to come in and he could only see so many different accounts, right? And the venue doesn't have enough manpower during a happy hour, because you know how it is. They're running around. You've been behind the bar. You know what it's like when you got 3 or 4 or 5 deep. Nobody's got time to sample something new that they want to introduce to the public.
Right.
So in that case, they subcontract that portion of the job to the tequila girl, the Tecate girl, the beer girl. They're very popular for Budweiser.
Did they always wear little to no clothes?
They did, right? Yeah, Patron was the first one to hire. There's a book out called The Patron Way that you can read the review on at tequilaaficionado.com. Their first tequila girl, the first Patron girl, was a call girl.
Oh, okay.
So you have to read this history. There's a big history behind.
There's something to that.
Yeah, there's something to that. I think it's archaic now.
Sure.
I mean, it's outdated. It really is 70s and 90s and thinking. It's not like that anymore. But the sampling law in New Mexico states that in order for you to sample a new beverage, it has to be an employee of the venue.
Okay.
But that law had never really been enforced.
I see.
Okay, so technically, what Southern Wine would do is they would subcontract a company, a promotions company, okay, and their job was to show up between 5 and 7 during happy hour and promote Siembra Metal.
Yeah.
Okay, and they got paid either by the distributor. The distributor got money from the owner, from let's say David Suro,
right,
and everybody gets paid. Ordinarily, the promotion companies are run by women.
Yeah.
Typically it's almost like a madam, and here are the girls, right? But they are highly trained and they know how to do it, and they come with a uniform, But that's how it's done because the staff there's not enough manpower to get around, right. Especially on a Friday or during the summertime when events are happening all over town.
Mm-hmm.
Well, overnight, Richardson started to put the clamps down on the liquor industry, distribution industry, and he put women out of business.
Why?
And he put
what was his motive?
Well,
not why.
Well,
I can see how he found the legal.
Well, yeah, there was there. For those of you who may have lived in New Mexico or followed Richardson's career, there was a terrible head-on collision off one of the reservations the day after Christmas or on Christmas Eve, where you have a gentleman who had imbibed a little too much and was driving on the wrong side of the highway in the middle of the night, and he obliterated a whole family.
Oh, geez. Okay.
And MAD, M-A-D-D, took that,
As an opportunity.
And they were one of Richardson's constituents.
I see. Okay.
So that was a platform for Richardson to jump on.
Right.
And it was really interesting because after the 4th year of us doing it in downtown, I was told by Southern Wine, by reps at the time, that said, you need to get it out of downtown. You need to move it. You need to get it away from where it's more alcohol friendly.
Right.
Like Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's more touristy.
Sure.
Well, no. Me and my stubbornness, no. So I spent, 2 or 3 years trying to find a venue that would take us on, and we could use, they would, we would pay them somehow. Their people would be pouring. Everybody wanted the event. Nobody wanted to take the liability.
I see.
Instead of listening to everybody who wanted this kind of an event in Colorado and Pasadena, California, in Dallas, I'd been asked to take it everywhere. But I wanted, I really wanted something for the state of New Mexico.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. As I was doing these events, these shows, I was looking for a venue to write about an article about my show. I wanted it to be publicized.
Right.
And in those days, there weren't any PR firms that you could send your press release to.
Yeah.
They didn't exist. But this guy out in Southern California by the name of Alex Perez had a website called Tequila Aficionado.
Ah, okay.
And I wrote him a quick email. I said, hey, Alex, I have a show in New Mexico. I'd like to write about it, and maybe can I publish it on your... He said, sure. I need the, I
need the traffic.
I need the
content,
traffic. I need the content.
Right, yeah.
It was a hobby for him. He's got interviews with Don Felipe Camarena, who was the godfather, the inventor of Don Felipe, El Tesoro de Don Felipe.
Wow.
His son Carlos Camarena took over he has interviews with the real Don Julio.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so he was one of the first ones to start recording this because he saw the beauty of it.
Sure.
On his first trip to Mexico. He would let me write and without editing, so I was my own.
And then your writing comes into it again, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm not writing fiction anymore. I'm writing about my show, and I get more serious about my craft and how to write. And throughout the years, I've learned to write my own press release. And how, and headlines, and one thing led to another. Tequila had always been, one of my things, and Alex and I, over the years, had developed what we call sipping off the cuff. It's our first initially was an audio podcast.
Right. Okay.
I would be in New Mexico, and he would be in Southern California. We'd get together. He would record us, and we would do live tastings of tequilas that were sent to us, and it was our reviews. Well, Tequila Aficionado has been a big, big part of my life.
Yeah.
Because all my passions came into it.
Speaking, it's so strange.
Speaking,
it all just kind of came
writing, lecturing, learning, because, I guess I'm a kind of an eternal student.
It's like the Karate Kid, right? Daniel's painting the fence. He's buffing the car.
Wax on, wax off.
And you're like, what does he learn? As the viewer of the movie.
By the way, my website, my personal website is tequilasensei.com.
Oh, there you go. See? That's exactly.
I have people calling me sensei. And, I don't call myself that. It's like most people in this business who are considered tequila experts or whatever, we don't call ourselves that. And we all know each other.
Yeah, sure.
This is a real small, tight community.
Yeah.
But we all kind of came through the ranks together. And Tequila Aficionado is a big part of my life. When I couldn't express myself by giving something to the state of New Mexico and by teaching people,
right,
and being written about and showing the beauty of this juice.
Yeah.
I had to find another outlet. I had to figure out a way.
Well, that's what happens. You innovate when you have no other choice sometimes.
I was sponsored on, I belonged to an email list. We'd send out one question or whatever, and everybody who belonged to that email list would get that question, and other people would answer.
Right.
Unbeknownst to me, people like Robert Denton, who was the first importer of Chinaco and El Tesoro de Don Felipe, he was tequila at the time. He was a member of this group, and a lot of collectors and and guys like the gentleman who's responsible for the graphic labels for Fortaleza and for Muchote, you know, all the Tim Carter, who was another big collector. You know, all the big collectors were somebody.
So it was the community. It was a community of the community.
Exactly. Ian Chadwick, who eventually came up with his own website about tequila and eventually got to the point where he had his own Blue Agave Forum. And so we graduated
from that
to the list, to the forum. And we just moved along, and we learned from these guys, you know, because some of the stuff was priceless, the information we were getting, and inside stuff that we had, you know, really no business knowing.
Yeah.
And so that's how I, out of the blue one day, well, this is, first of all, let me say that this is where my show on my first year, I believe, where I heard from Ron Cooper, who was Del Maguey.
Right.
He had just, I think, launched Del Maguey. He lives in Taos. Unbeknownst to me, he was from Taos.
No kidding.
My neighbor. He wrote me an email and said, I'm fully in support of you. He's known me for over 10 years.
Yeah, wow.
After our third year, where we had them lined up around the block and we were all at the bar, they had even put in portable bars along with the regular bar downstairs at the hotel, and we were exhausted. And Ron Cooper comes up to me and he goes, "Are you ready to do a 2-day event?
Oh, jeez.
One day you'll have Highlands tequilas. One day you'll have Lowlands tequilas." I said, "Hell no. Hell no." We had guys like Ron Cooper come and speak.
Yeah.
We had the guy who wrote Lance Cutler, who had written one of the classic books right after Bob Emmons. Lance Cutler had a book out, and all these were through our distributor who had contacts with these guys, and they were public speaking. This had never been done before.
Right.
Nobody had ever spoken to the public. Distribution isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
Now I avoid distributors. I can't, you know, I had a great relationship with Southern Wine and Spirits in New Mexico. It was its own entity. The gentleman that helped me out the most, I don't know what happened in his life, but between, you know, after the fourth year, he somehow committed suicide. And then the Arizona division took over the New Mexico division, and then the atmosphere changed.
The culture changed.
The culture changed. Distribution got to be a big powerhouse. You know, and they became these behemoths.
Yeah. And
they solidified themselves, centralized themselves, and now have become the evil empire. It's us and them. Yeah. Okay, let's just say that the nose on this one is amazing. Oh my gosh! And and really, if whatever the line is that you endorse, whatever the line is that you really like, you know, whether it's Del Maguey, whether it's Oaxaca, whether it's Siembra Metal, or even of the newer ones that are coming up. Really get to know every line, because the plant that they're using really makes a difference. Some of these are medleys. They're combinations of several other plants together. Some of these are different alcohol by volume.
Some are clay, some are copper.
Right. You know, some are clay, some are copper.
This is copper, though.
Yeah. The retronasal on this is so it's not harsh. Some tequilas, even with a retronasal, you'll get a lot of alcohol, but this one,
nice flavor.
This one is just, it's almost, if you do retronasal on it, and it's a technique where you kind of clear your throat, and it's very similar to when you burp a soda and it comes up your nose.
Yeah.
Okay, but without the harshness. It's a technique that the retronasal on this is so beautiful. It smells good coming and going, man. It's just wow. This is just, oh my God.
Well, so again, to kind of like conclude it, what you guys took this program, because you're doing sipping off the cuff and what you do, the audio interviews and reviews of the tequila, but that made a different jump. Like, what exactly?
Well, here's what happened with Last Tequila Standing.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, while I was living in New Mexico, after I've been in this business and we've been doing sipping off the cuff for several years, and we went from audio to video.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So some of the earliest stuff, we were using video software that's branded by them. Now it's gotten to the point where we use Skype and we use our we bought software,
right.
And now you'll see us on a split screen. We have Lisa does our branding and our post production, and it's just a couple of guys who have great chemistry, and we know each other for so many years. And literally, Alex just breaks it open. Most of my bottles have been broken open when they get here.
Yeah.
But we never share what it is that we're going to taste.
Right.
And so our reactions are just as natural. And it may be even weeks and months before I go back to that tequila. So I have forgotten completely what it tastes like.
Yeah.
Well, what had happened was while I was living in New Mexico, toward the end of my second marriage, I was approached to write an article by people, a company called Media Planet that wrote inserts for USA Today.
Mm-hmm.
So at first they were just going to interview me, and the more we talked, the more I realized that they're just going to hire some hack who's going to get it all wrong.
Right.
I said, "Why don't you just hire me?" And one thing led to another. We wrote the insert. It became their most popular. It made them the most money ever. It was the first time they normally did stuff for the pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
But they had never done anything with alcohol. This was their first foray into the alcohol business, and they made money.
Good.
They tried doing it. This company tried doing it again with vodka, and it wasn't so successful.
Sure.
In the meantime, I was contacted by a producer.
Yeah.
TV producer.
Yeah.
Who had done several other projects like the Favorite Pizza, and I'd never seen any of his stuff.
Like mostly like food-centric stuff.
Yeah, food-centric. Blogger, blogging was very big at that time, and so he had done a lot of that stuff. His real job was something else. I think he sold software, actually. But anyway, he contacted me, and my name kept coming up.
Yeah.
Because I'd been in the business for so long, now everybody kept referring me to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he contacted me. One thing led to another. They made me associate producer of the show.
On this concept. So tell me what the concept.
So Last Tequila Standing, the way it was going to work is it was going to be a contest where several brands would compete for flavor, cocktails, and what the public thought. And we filmed it on several different occasions in Southern California. So they flew me out, which was great because I'm from there.
Get to go back.
So I get to go back, get to be with mom and dad for a couple of weeks, couple of days, whatever, and not have to really stay there.
Yeah.
Now I can come back.
The best
home.
part, right?
Right. And what they were going to do is they were going to sell it they were going to sell the concept to either PBS or a network, whether Spike TV, whatever, however they were going to do it. And my job was to recruit the tequila brands. And because I knew so many tequila brand owners and so many brands, I had a working list of about 117 tequilas.
Wow.
And we got 23 tequilas to come on board. And they paid a certain amount to and I recruited the judges.
Gotcha. Okay.
And again, I knew people in the industry, so our judges became Chris Zaris, who was the designer of Tequila Rack, which is the first in-home tequila tasting kit that I think was ahead of its time. The other gentleman is Clayton Check, and Clayton now runs one of the most successful tequila and mezcal tour companies.
Interesting.
Ever. Very educated guys, very serious.
And was it a weekly? Was this intended to be a weekly?
we would the way it was going to work was going to be weekly. But when you film these, you fly everybody else in. They take a whole day or a whole weekend to film, and they're different brand owners, a whole bunch of guys all at once, and then we were going to cut it up and each individual show.
And there's a winner each show, right?
Kind of,
more or less.
Yeah, kind of. Well, what had happened was the producers, the executive producers, had a hard time selling this. They had a couple of deals that were going to work on pay television that fell through. They wanted to secure markets where there were a high Hispanic market
demographic.
they could never secure things. And it was frustrating for me because I really, their hearts were
project.
Right. Their hearts were in the right place, because what they said to me, they said all the right things. That's why I got involved. They said to me, look, you get them, you bring them here, and let them tell their stories. Tell them to bring their stories. And that's what I was what Tequila Aficionado has always been about.
People's stories.
People's stories, just like what you're about right now. So
what ended up happening? So he tries to sell it. The concept just doesn't get it.
It doesn't fly.
Okay.
It doesn't fly.
So where is it at now?
Well, here's what happened. Between that point and Mike moving to Texas, we meet up. I meet up online with Lisa Peach, who's our COO now, reaches out to me, and she's a tequila nut, but she noticed that we were LinkedIn. She found us on LinkedIn, and she found us on Facebook, and I was doing as much social media as I could, but it hadn't become a science like it is now for some marketing people.
Right.
Lisa, on the other hand, had studied it and had grown with it and was using it to market her books. So she's a self-published author, had supported herself using different techniques on social media and always searching out more, and doing it for other authors as well, for other authors who were self-published. And one thing led to another. She came up with a proposal for Tequila Aficionado that had been laying dormant for a long. It would come and go in spurts. We'd go dormant. We had a website built for us that was horrendous to use.
Was she redesigning it for you?
Yeah, she made us an offer. She redesigned it, moved it over to a much user-friendly platform, and for a percentage of the company.
Sure.
And since it was a percentage of not a whole lot of anything, we said, sure.
Not a bad deal. Yeah.
Not a bad deal. And she was willing to work for that percentage because of the 2-hour time difference. Between then and now, my father sadly passed away. So from New Mexico, I moved to Southern California to be with Mom for a year, and that's where Alex and I did our Sipping Off the Cuffs live together in one room.
Finally,
we did it. We did a whole season of that. And when Lisa reached out, she was in Texas, and that 2-hour time difference is rough. I tend to keep really long late night hours. It's not uncommon for me to go to bed at 3. But she's a morning person. So 3 o'clock is 5 o'clock her time. And she's up. So we would communicate a lot of stuff of what we were doing for Tequila Aficionado on the phone. We had restructured the company, made me from executive editor to CEO. Alex is our founder, and she's our COO. So she completely took Tequila Aficionado to where it is now. December of 2015, we averaged 10,000 hits from 138 different countries. And tequila now is so popular. And our viewers come from Canada, from Mexico, from the United States, from Australia, New Zealand, Japan. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's really, really great.
Yeah, and that's all through her efforts. And
is that why you moved to? So did you move to Texas?
I moved to Texas
make the process easier.
Yeah, because a lot of tequila brands, like I mentioned way earlier in this interview, a lot of people live in Texas. And they don't live in New Mexico. In the 3 years that I've been here, I've been busier than in the 18 years I lived in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Sad to say.
No, but Texas is it's a bunch of nuts for mezcal, a bunch of nuts for tequila, And
guys like you who are,
whatever the hell.
Guys who would come, Texas Sotol, come on. Sotol hasn't even been discovered yet like it should be.
Right. It's going to take a couple of years at
but
least.
you're already on top of it.
You're trying to innovate. We go back to when you innovate when you're backed against the wall, and you do things to save your business, you do things to save your creative vision on things, So ultimately, though, this is good timing because you just wrapped up San Antonio Cocktail Conference this weekend.
Yes.
You feeling all right?
I'm fine, because all I did was talk. I mean, I stepped in for a brand, Embajador Tequila, which has been was nominated one of our brands of promise. We got to be very close with them. The quality is amazing. It's an amazing tequila. And so separate and apart from Tequila Aficionado, I consult, and the brand owner, who is also a family member, was going to be in a wedding because normally he would do these events.
Sure.
And he and I have worked events last year together, and they have asked me to be their hired gun.
Yeah.
I'm the hired mouth because I'm not licensed to pour, so I don't want to do that.
Right.
They have
share the message.
Share the message, and I had some of the best conversations, and that comes from a lot of my speaking where I did trade shows. I did trade shows when I worked for Brinks. I also worked the last real job I actually had was I worked for a remodeling company in Albuquerque.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked a lot of home shows where you're dealing with the end consumer.
Right.
And so I'm used to working to be with the public. I like that. And I don't get a chance to do it very often with tequila unless I'm doing a food pairing or a tasting or something or staff training.
Right.
So to be with the public is a dream for me. I love my job.
Mm-hmm.
I love writing about it. That's all I do now is I write about tequila. All I do is I talk about it. I'd love to be more involved with the distribution channels, the smaller houses.
Yeah.
The big guys don't need you.
Right.
They don't need me. And they hire people for that stuff.
But they're gonna lose market reach soon enough, and there's lots of brands coming in, and it's gonna be a changing industry. It already is.
Yeah, right now there was a big consolidation with Glaciers and Southern Wine and Spirits.
Yeah.
I know that Bacardi dropped Republic National to move over. That happened right before it's not an accident that the Bacardi moved from Southern Wine from Republic National directly to Southern Wine, and then Southern Wine announces their merger with Glaciers. Okay, that's not an accident. That was all planned.
I'm sure.
All right, we know that. It really makes sense. At this point, Republic National in their portfolio has a few big holes.
Yeah,
lots of big holes, and maybe some people are losing their jobs. Sadly,
yeah.
But you know what? That's distribution. That's what happens. It happened to me in radio. It's happening now in distribution.
Right.
So the saving grace of the distribution channels, the 3-tier system, which to me is archaic.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to go away, but that'll never go away because the government, that's where everybody gets a piece of the action. But the saving grace of that 3-tier system is guys like you, the small batch distiller, wherever they come from, and the small houses that think that believe that they can give attention to better wines, better beverages, better beers. They're going to be they're the saving grace of that 3-tier system. Mm-hmm. All right. Right now, craft beer is in its heyday. Yep. If you're making craft beer right now, congratulations.
It's finally a worthy opponent to the big guys.
Yeah.
All of this stuff.
And they know that.
Yeah.
They're buying up little brands now, aren't they? Everybody is backpedaling. Sure. Everybody. From
they don't know what to do. Yeah.
From Southern Wine and Spirits, I believe, has a new division called the Craft Spirits Division.
Right.
And I put craft in quotes because I'll tell you what craft is. Craft is the
word.
Is a word. And I have an article on Tequila Aficionado that I wrote. It's a 3-part article called Craft. What the fuck does that mean?
Right.
Yeah. Because there's lots of ways that these guys are backpedaling. I'm looking at craft right here. The mezcal, the siembra metal, even from batch to batch. It's not about consistency. That's the beautiful part about the small batch distiller. Mm-hmm. Yes, they want to be consistent. Yes, the quality is always going to be there. But that's what Fortaleza does so beautifully, is that every batch is going to be different because they're still using the stone wheel. They're still using the primary material, which is the agave. The process is the same, but it's like a vintage. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've really promoted the vintage. I think Tequila Ocho does the same thing.
They do, yeah.
Where this bottling comes from this estate, and that bottling comes from that estate. And I think there's a few other ones that are doing something similar.
Yeah.
And really showing people that it's good to have variety. Mm-hmm. It's good to be brand loyal, but be brand loyal because you're going to get a surprise with every batch.
Right.
And even Cuervo, Reserva de la Familia, every year they're not only are their bottles and their boxes, a big collector's thing these days, but every batch is going to be different. And I think, there are people that say, when I got my first one, and my first bottle was 1996. That 96 batch is so sought after. Well, what did we know? I didn't know. I drank it all.
Yeah.
But there are certain batches that will be better than others. People that follow Fortaleza, they seek different batch numbers because they know, they're like the geeks and the nerds and the fanboys.
Right.
The fangirls too. Women need to be not overlooked. Women are, we know, and everybody who does marketing knows that women are now, they're 80% of the buying, first of all, 80% of the population.
Right.
And they do 70%, or the majority of the buying decisions of a family come from women.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I think that I love speaking to women because they get the mechanics. Even when I was a health instructor, when I had a woman come to me who wanted instruction, they wanted to know why. They were into the mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to make sure their form was good. They didn't want to lift heavy weight, and watch their form go bad.
Right.
It was all about form and function. And it's true with craft anything. The guys who are in the craft business, whether it's beer or you're making your own gin or your own bourbon or whiskey or whatever, it's form and function. It's all about why, how come. And women love that. The skinny thing,
mm-hmm.
that was a trend. It was okay. But, when we found out that Skinny Girl was using Mixto tequila, how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
Do you even know what Mixto is?
Yeah.
Right. And so I love speaking to women because they get the form and function.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't believe me, go to the next liquor store and listen to a guy on the phone going, honey, what was the name of that wine that you wanted? He's not going to make that decision.
Yeah.
He's calling his wife because he's got to make the missus happy.
Which is good. So all of it's good. It's good to know that the industry is changing. I think we're at a point where things are really the landscape's going to completely change.
Yeah.
And you working with the smaller producers is going to give you a lot more opportunity. Of course, when we go back to craft, so many different themes to this conversation, so many different kind of crossroads. But the bottom line is that you don't ever know why something is meaningful at the moment, but it all sums together and accumulates as you get older,
Yep.
It takes you on this big, long journey. So, Mike, thanks so much for sipping the Cupriata with me, man. And these are wonderful. I love these cups.
I hope I didn't talk your ear off.
It's good, man. It's been a pleasure seeing the dogs and letting her out and seeing the cats and everything and sharing the mezcal with you. It's been an amazing journey, and I hope that everything keeps going in the way that you want it to.
Well, Mike, first of all, thanks for taking the initiative to come all the way out here.
Absolutely.
I know it's a long drive. I love what you're doing. It almost takes me back to when we first started with Tequila Aficionado, because that's how Alex started, and
Mm-hmm.
it was about recording stories. And I know that I probably jumped everywhere and really didn't finish telling you everything.
I think it's all there. I think that the point's the meaning is that.
Well, just to finish up with Last Tequila Standing, we obtained the rights from the executive producers to run the rough footage.
Yeah.
So you can actually binge watch all of it. See, because there was before binge watching. Now everybody binge watches.
But you can get it at
You can get it at tequilaaficionado.com. You can see who we spoke to. We have some beautiful instructional stuff in both English and Spanish. Some wonderful characters.
Cool.
It was part of our it was part of our season last year that helped us get to where we are now.
Cool.
We hope to grow even further. Visit us, like I say, at tequilaaficionado.com. You can find us all over on
social media as well.
Every social media platform. You can follow us on Pinterest, Instagram. Our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Just if you're not into reading any of my articles, I try to make my articles as instructional as possible. It could be a little boring for some people.
But you got videos.
I got video. You can see Mike talking to us about his Texas Sotol.
An amazing, humbling moment to see myself. So anyway, man, thank you so much for your support and continue to do what you do. It's been a great chat, Mike.
Thank you, sir. Thanks
Talk
for
soon.
being here. Appreciate it.
Well, there we have it. I think like a modern legend in a way. And a lot of people don't know he's kind of like this unsung hero of spreading the love of agave spirits, whether it be mezcal, Sotol, or of course, tequila. We talk a bit about David Suro. I'm really excited to share that interview as well with you this week. But it's just, he's like a fan of tequila. He really loves it. He has embraced every aspect of it. He's traveled to it. He's read about it. So I don't know. It's kind of inspiring to get someone that's so academically driven and so passionate about his spirit. I know mezcal and tequila and agave just in general really, really inspires people. And perhaps that's why the market and those segments keep growing. But there's something very special about the experiences Mike has had. And it really was a pleasure getting to share that with him. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter what kind of sipping utensil you're considering for your next agave treat, or which Kurt Russell movie you plan on watching again today, please keep dancing.